From the dust of the market to the clouds of the sky, this is not just a story of success, but of a father's unstoppable love that turned struggles into wings for his daughters. The sun rises over a city that never truly sleeps. The narrow lanes of the market come alive with noise, vendors shouting, customers bargaining, the rumble of carts being pulled through the dust. Among them is Raghu, a thin, middle-aged man with tired eyes but a determined stride. His hands grip the wooden handles of a vegetable cart stacked with fresh produce, the weight of it heavy but nothing compared to the weight of his dreams. Beads of sweat glisten on his forehead as he pushes through the crowd, dodging motorcycles, stray dogs, and potholes. But despite the chaos around him, a soft smile plays on his lips. Because at the end of this long road, he knows two bright faces will be waiting, his daughters Meera and Anjali. He had nothing but hope. Every vegetable sold was a step closer to their dreams. The scene shifts to Raghu in the early hours of the morning. Before the first light, when most of the world is still asleep, Raghu is already at the wholesale market. He inspects tomatoes, cauliflowers, and green chilies, bargaining not for profit, but to save a few extra coins. His hands, calloused from years of labor, move swiftly, loading the cart. These are the same hands that once held his daughters when they cried, that fixed broken toys, that cooked simple meals on cold nights. Rough hands, but a heart as soft as the first monsoon rain. Every rupee he earned, he measured not in money, but in school books, tuition fees, and the promise of a better future for his girls. Raghu reaches home just as the sun climbs higher. Meera and Anjali run out to meet him, their faces lighting up. He sets the cart down and wipes his face with an old cloth. He hands them each a small fruit, a mango for Meera, a guava for Anjali, his way of bringing them joy in the midst of hardship. His wife watches from the doorway, eyes filled with both worry and pride. Raghu counting coins late at night, saving each paisa in an old tin box. Raghu refusing extra tea at the stall, using the money instead to buy notebooks. Raghu working in the rain, the cart covered with a plastic sheet, but his resolve unshaken. The world saw a vegetable seller, but his daughters saw a hero, a man who fought storms, hunger, and exhaustion, not for himself, but for their dreams. As the sun sets behind the city's skyline, Raghu pushes his empty cart home. The weight is lighter now, but the burden of his hopes remains. And in that quiet moment, we see a man who may have been born with nothing, but who gives everything, every single day.
The night is quiet, except for the soft creak of an old needle threading through worn fabric.
Under the dim light of a flickering bulb, Raghu sits cross-legged on the floor, patching his faded shirt with steady hands. His stomach growls, but he ignores it, too used to the emptiness now. A cold chapati lies untouched on a plate beside him. He had set it aside for himself, but when Anjali had asked for another piece, he'd quietly given it to her. Tonight, like many nights before, Raghu will sleep hungry, but his heart is full, knowing his daughters have eaten. While the world saw a poor vegetable seller, his daughters saw their hero. At the market, the air is festive. Lanterns hang between stalls, and the smell of sweets fills the air. It is a festival day. Traders laugh, customers shop in excitement, but Raghu pushes his cart through the crowd, his pace unbroken. While others pack up early to join their families, Raghu keeps working. The festivals bring good sales. More sales mean more savings. He has no time to rest. Each coin earned tonight brings his daughters closer to their future. Raghu standing outside a small school, looking at a fee slip, worry in his eyes. Later, he visits a moneylender, humbly requesting a small loan. The lender warns him about the high interest, but Raghu nods. What choice does he have? He signs the papers, his hands trembling slightly, not out of fear, but out of the weight of responsibility. The loan will pay for Mira's extra tuition. She dreams of becoming a doctor, and he will not let that dream fade. He avoided new clothes, new shoes, even the smallest of pleasures, so that his daughters could have what he never did, a chance. The camera follows Raghu as he walks past a shop selling warm jackets. He pauses, his thin shirt no match for the winter wind. His eyes linger on the price tag, but then he looks at the list of school supplies in his pocket and moves on. Needs can wait. Dreams cannot. That night, Raghu sits quietly outside his home, watching through the window as his daughters study by the light of an oil lamp. Their heads bent over books, their faces full of determination. A smile forms on his tired face. He hugs his knees to his chest, the cold forgotten. In their success, he finds his warmth. The world may never think the weight of his sacrifices, but in the eyes of his daughters, he is and will always be the greatest man who ever lived. The hall is filled with applause, echoing off the old walls like music. On a small stage, draped in simple decorations, Mira stands tall, a medal around her neck, her school uniform neat and pressed. In her hands is a certificate, a government scholarship that will change everything. The principal beams with pride, and cameras flash as reporters jot down notes. But Mira's eyes search the crowd, ignoring the dignitaries, the teachers, the guests. She finds Raghu standing at the back of the room, his hands folded, his shirt faded, his eyes shining with tears he doesn't bother to hide. His hard work was no longer invisible. The world finally saw what his daughters always knew. Just a year ago, Raghu had stood under the harsh sun, counting coins to pay for Mira's exam fees. He had walked miles to the school, his cart parked at the side of the road, to deliver the payment before the deadline. That small act, unnoticed by many, paved the path to this moment. Mira had not just topped her school, she had topped the entire district, earning a full scholarship for higher education. Her voice trembles at first but grows steady as she speaks. She doesn't thank only the school, the teachers, or the officials. She speaks of the man who sold vegetables to light her way, who skipped meals so she wouldn't have to, who believed in her when no one else did. The hall falls silent, the audience moved by the honesty in her words. Raghu lowers his head, overcome with emotion, his tears falling freely now, not of sorrow but of pride, of relief, of a father's quiet victory. News spreads through the neighborhood. Neighbors who once looked past Raghu now greet him with respect. The shopkeepers who never extended credit now offer discounts. The landlord, once harsh about rent, now speaks gently. The family, once invisible to the community, is now seen, heard, and valued. Raghu walks through the market, and for the first time, people do not see just a vegetable seller. They see the father of the girl who brought honor to their community. Where once stood a poor man with a cart, now walked a father whose sacrifices had borne fruit. His daughter's success became his own. That night, Raghu sits outside their small home, gazing at the stars. Mira sits beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. The struggles are far from over, but tonight there is peace. A father's silent prayers have been answered, and a new chapter has begun. A bright morning sun bathes the city in golden light. The scene opens with a montage. Mira, dressed in a crisp pilot uniform, confidently strides towards her aircraft, her cap tucked under one arm, the runway stretching out before her like a promise fulfilled. Anjali, in her engineering overalls, walks through a large industrial plant, clipboard in hand, giving instructions to a team twice her age. Their faces glow with determination and pride. They have arrived at the threshold of the dreams that once seemed impossible. His daughters didn't just break barriers, they flew beyond them. Back in their neighborhood, the old small house with the leaking roof now stands empty. Raghu locks the door one final time and looks at it with bittersweet eyes. A sleek car waits at the corner, driven by Mira, who steps out and opens the door for him. He hesitates, still not used to such gestures, but she smiles and insists. Together, they drive towards their new home, a house his daughters bought with their first salaries, a simple yet beautiful home, with strong walls, bright windows, and a small garden that Raghu instantly falls in love with. His daughters show him his room, his chair by the window, and a framed photo of the family on the table. Anjali hands him a box with a suit neatly folded inside. Raghu opens it slowly, running his fingers over the fine fabric. His first suit. His eyes glisten as he remembers all the times he dreamed of being able to afford something nice, not for himself, but just to feel worthy at ceremonies and gatherings. He tries it on, awkwardly at first, but his daughters adjust the collar, beam at him, and tell him he looks like a king. The man who once stood invisible among crowds now stood tall, carried on the wings of his daughter's love. The day comes when Mira takes him to the airport, not to sell vegetables at the gate or load goods as he once did in his youth, but to fly as her honored guest. Raghu, wearing his suit, climbs the steps of the private jet she now flies. Inside the cockpit, Mira invites him to sit beside her. His weathered hands brush over the controls, his eyes wide in wonder. The engines roar to life, and as the jet lifts off the ground, Raghu gazes out the window at the shrinking world below. The streets he once walked, the markets he once worked in, now far beneath him. As the jet soars through the clouds, Raghu closes his eyes and smiles, a smile of a man who has lived through storms and finally touched the sky.
The roar of the engines fades into a peaceful hum as Raghu, now older, sits in the cockpit beside Mira, who confidently pilots the jet. Through the wide windows, endless clouds stretch like a sea of white. Raghu's weathered hands rest on his lap, his eyes filled with wonder and quiet joy. His heart soars higher than the jet itself. Once he walked miles under the burning sun, now he soars above the clouds with pride. Mayamku. As the jet slices through the sky, Raghu gazes out, memories flooding back. The cart, the market, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices. Now those hard days seem distant, like the ground far below. Dreams have no price, a father's love has no limit, and today his love has touched the sky.